Hey there folks, this is Josh, Stoney Ridge Farmer. Come on guys, come on, free! Welcome back to the farm. Today we're gonna have a little bit of fun out here with our laying hens. I'm gonna take you over here and show you what I'm talking about. So today is gonna be the first day that we release our laying hens, and our laying hens are in this mobile coop right here. There are around 40 laying hens in here, and there are around 3 laying hens that got out. It's kind of funny. So what that is a sign to me that it's time to expand the coop just a little bit. And what we're going to be doing today is taking our laying hens and we're going to be putting some Premier 1 shock or not fencing right down here in the yard, and we're going to show you how we raise our laying hens, and this is also how we raise our meat birds up for processing. And our laying hens, we're getting them ready, we're training them to the Premier 1 poultry netting so that we can put them out on pasture in the mobile coop. And we haven't built the mobile coop yet, the egg mobile, but that's coming soon. So come along today as we work with the chickens a little bit, give you guys some cool ideas in case you have backyard chickens, or in case you're thinking about getting some backyard chickens for laying hens for your family. All right, woo! Stoney Ridge Farm, Stoney Ridge, Stoney Ridge Farm. Alright guys, if this is your first time to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel, welcome to the farm. Please jump in, pound that like button, consider subscribing to the channel. We got all kinds of fun stuff, including fun chickens. So let's talk a little bit about the chickens that we have and why we have those chickens. We're doing a bit of an experiment for you guys here on YouTube with these chickens. So we went to Murray McMurray Hatchery. We ordered 25 production red chickens and 25 white leghorn chickens. They're all hens, hopefully everybody's a hen, and we probably lost 3 of those chickens in the first couple weeks, and that's a fairly normal thing. So if you're raising chickens, guys, you buy 50 chickens, you're gonna lose a few chickens. You buy 100, you're gonna lose a few more. You buy 15 or 5, you're gonna lose some chickens, and it's just part of it. They're just very fragile animals, very beautiful creatures. I tell you what, birds just fascinate me. They really do. So we live amongst our chickens. We have laying hens that are permanent laying hens in our garden spot over here. We'll probably take you over there later in the video. But what we're gonna do is move this coop. So this is a PVC mobile coop that we've been moving piece by piece by piece, square by square by square throughout the yard. I'm gonna set this little guy down. This is a white leghorn. A little tip here, if you want to know what color egg a chicken lays, this little spot right here is the ear of the chicken. That ear is white. So this will be a white egg layer. There you go. Pretty cool. So we move this mobile coop throughout the yard until the birds get to a size that they're a little bit too big for the coop. So right now I've sold off a few of these birds, probably 10 of them. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 38 to 40 birds in this mobile coop. If you think about it, we're moving 120 square feet every single day here on the farm. And you can see right here the results in the yard. I'll walk you around here. See that green stripe? And see how it's not as green right there? That is where the mobile coop came through here, went all the way down edge of the driveway, and has come back up. And you see it's a little bit dead. The grass is a little bit dead as we get closer and closer. But once the manure sets in, we are doing twofold an operation. In other words, we're doing a twofold operation by fertilizing without paying for fertilizer. We're getting good butt fertilizer from our chickens, and it's building our soil, and it's making our lawn beautiful. So it's a whole lot at work right here. What we're going to be doing, there's a spot here, these look like bushes, but they're tree stumps, and I'm going to be grinding those stumps at some point, and this is going to be part of our pasture. We're getting ready to build fences all the way across here, and if you follow the channel, you've seen our wooden fence going in. This is our garden over here, and it's all fenced in with poultry netting also. That poultry netting is what holds the chickens into our garden spot. We tilled it up, we let the weeds come up for a couple weeks, we fenced it off, and we released our laying hens that are stationary, that take care of the garden, they tend the garden. We release those into our garden spot, and they'll clean it up real good for us, and also spread more butt fertilizer. So it's all about living with chickens, and it's all about a holistic way of living. In other words, we're not putting fertilizers down on the land. So the thing that we're going to do is go right down here, and I'll show you. This will be the last time we use this awesome Cub Cadet Ultima before we donate it to our local fire department for a raffle. I'll have that information on the channel if you guys decide you want it. This thing is awesome, super versatile, super quiet, just a great machine. It really is a great machine. So Cub Cadet has sponsored us on this deal, and without them we wouldn't be able to donate this $6,500 or $6,900 mower to our fire department for raffle. So way cool. So what we're going to be doing is doing away with this flower bed, and I'm going to encase this or circle it with the Premier One shock or knot fence. The shock or knot fence, you can plug it in. For baby chicks, you don't want to shock them, so you can leave it unplugged. We are going to energize this fence. It's going to have power on it because the last 2 nights I have had foxes right out here in the yard. The dogs have been raising Cain, and foxes have been right up on the chicken coop. Now, something we do and something that's probably kept the foxes away, I realize this is a lot of information, but it's fun. It's good living, good clean living. So we have some solar lights. You can see a little solar motion light. All 4 sides of this coop. Look at my buddies, they're following me around. All 4 sides of that coop have lighting on it. So what we have to do is grab this mobile coop and drag it down the hill. What I have found over time is that don't feed your chickens first thing in the morning before you move your mobile coop. So they're all hungry. They're all coming right here to me, and they will follow me throughout the yard as I move them. So let's get busy. First thing we got to do is move the birds down here, and then we're going to start constructing this whole thing after I run the 0 turn around and mow the grass down a little bit. Here's how the mobile coop works. There's a rope right here. This is my design. This is all PVC with silver aluminized tin on the roof. It keeps the heat down for the chickens. It keeps them happy, it keeps them healthy, and it gives them enough room. So we're gonna cruise around. We're gonna pull these guys this way. Birdies. Right on down the hill, and they'll follow me. Successful bird move, and the birds are nice and cool there in the shady spot that's provided by the coop. A lot of questions about this coop, man. Oh, don't they get any sunlight? Yes, the sun moves through the sky, and the sun shines in there on the birds, and they can choose whether they want to sit in direct sunlight or whether they want to be in the shade. Now, they can't choose whether I mow the grass or not, because with this Premier fencing, this electrified poultry net, you want to have fairly short grass, and the lawn needs to be mowed anyway. So I'm going to zip around this a little bit, and then we'll put the birds on it. I think the birds figured out that the lawnmower scares up crickets. So all those little birds that are out right there, you see them? Man, they are ripping it up through the crickets right now. Man, it's so awesome to be able to just let our chickens be chickens. Let me take you over and I'm going to show you our feeding setup. And our feed is a little different than any feeding setup you probably have ever seen. And then we're going to set up the poultry netting. I'll show you how easy that is, and I'll show you how we electrify the poultry netting with a solar fence charger called the IntelliShock 60. There'll be links to all this stuff down in the video description, as well as a link to the 0 turn mower if you want to check one out. Let's go up here and I'll show you the feed setup that we have. The devil is in the details. The devil's in the details when it comes to farming and being successful at raising egg layers. What you're shooting for is as little labor as possible, as good a bird as possible that can get as good a forage as possible, good food, and low food waste, and not burning all of your energy keeping them fed and watered. So let me show you what we do. And I had to restock the feed barrel today. Typically, we go to Reedy Fork Farm and we get all organic feed. I had to run out because of this whole crisis that's going on in our country right now. I had to run out and get feed as quickly as I could wherever I could get it. Just for your sake of knowledge, if you buy 50 meat birds, it takes 1,000 pounds of food to finish off 50 meat birds. So if you go and get the commercially available feed and don't buy in bulk, you're gonna spend quite a bit of money, okay? So just a little bit of food for thought. Sometimes it's hard to find, there we go, the right string to pull. Now I wanna show you something that you may not have ever thought of. This is the commercial feed available from Tractor Supply, from your local farm store. We do crumbles for our young birds and pellets as the birds get older. So as soon as they finish up all of this chick starter that we're using right now, we'll move on to a formula that has pellets. They waste less with pellets, I'm telling you right now. But as our young birds are growing, here's what we do. So this is the feed from Performance, okay? Look at it. Look how palatable that is. Let me compare the two side by side. This is chick starter from Tractor Supply. This is chick starter from the other livestock store. This is much more palatable than this because this is so powdery. I'm gonna chuck that in there. This is so powdery, man. It's like dust. Look at that. Look at my hands. The back of my hands are covered with dust. A chicken, look at this. A chicken can't eat that. Imagine being a bird and trying to choke down that dust. It's like eating sawdust. It's not gonna work, man. I'll be honest with you, I'm not happy with that feed at all. I don't think that that's appropriate to feed chicks. And even digging down in here, there are whole kernels of corn. I think it's a lot of filler. I don't think it's good for my birds. Once we get done, I've got to use it all up. And once we get done with it, then we'll be moving on to an organic food from Reedy Fork Farm. There'll be a link in the video description to Reedy Fork Farm. They are wonderful people. Let me show you what we're doing with our feed that's different than everybody else. So for simplicity's sake, we're gonna say we have 40 birds down there. I take a 1 gallon scoop, just like this, and I pour it over in my bucket. And it's gonna take 2 1 gallon scoops excuse me, it's going to take 2 1 gallon scoops per day to feed these birds. Look at that cloud of dust flying off of there. You don't want to eat that. Look at it. It's unbelievable. Now we'll take this, and you can see how much is in there. Probably about a quarter of a bucket. Sometimes we do 2.5. I think we'll do 2.5. And this is enough feed to feed these birds for the day. Again, that's around 40 birds. Next thing we're going to do is our secret recipe. Water is our secret recipe. All right, we wet the food. Look at it. It's already getting more palatable. Shake it around in there a little bit. Get her wet. Let her soak it up a little bit. So we wet our chicken feed, even if it's a commercial chicken feed. Once we're out of our brooder, which is inside the garage, we move them out on the pasture and we start wetting our feed. We keep 3 buckets. 1 bucket is for today's feed, 1 bucket is for fermenting, and the other bucket is for fermenting. So we stay 3 days ahead. Each bucket of feed has fermented for 2 days in the bucket of water. It doesn't hurt anything. The chickens gobble it up. It reduces food waste because they eat every single tiny morsel of food, and they don't drink as much. So if I have the 5 gallon waterer, which I have back here, if I have that right there, boom, right, those are from Brower. If I have those in there, the feeders and the waterers, then the birds will only drink maybe 2 gallons of water. So I only fill that 5 gallon water up somewhere in the neighborhood of once every 2 days or so. That is what we're doing. The birds digest the food. The meat birds, when we do our meat birds, put on weight faster and they poop less. In other words, this food is going to build muscle. That's what we want. We want our birds to be jacked up. We want them to be muscly, that big breast. We don't feed them hormones, we feed them wet food. We feed them fermented food. It's pre-digested, so it helps with the bird's digestive tract, it helps with their digestive system, and it puts weight on the meat birds. So it's pretty cool. These aren't meat birds, these are laying hens. And what I'll do is take this bucket right here, I got behind on my buckets. You can see it's already basically soaked up all that water. So there's no liquid in there anymore. It's just wet food. We'll take that over and I'll pour it out on the ground because these are birds that forage on the ground. We'll pour that food out on the ground after we get our fence all set up right here, and then we're going to jack that mobile coop up. We provide the birds with shelter and we provide them with protection with the Premier One shock or not fence. And that's this right here. I'll show you how all that works. we keep a feed barrel down here by the chickens. These little guys are looking for it right now. We keep a feed barrel with the chickens basically out here when they're on pasture. Now once we build the egg mobile, we'll have a food storage set up right there on the egg mobile. I get it. I get that this is real food, this is real chicken feed, but I also get that this is me griping. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be dusty, okay? It shouldn't be that way. I don't want to buy a bag of dust when I go to buy my layer crumbles. I'm actually going to have a phone conversation with those guys about that, because if I didn't wet it, the chickens couldn't eat it almost. Now when you go to buy organic food that has all sorts of good yummy goodies in there, it's going to be a little powdery like that too, and again, that's why we wet our food. Awesome. Let's set up the Premier fence. Okay, shock or not poultry netting. This is the shock or not. So you see on this side there is a coarser nylon with a wire built into it, and on this side there is a mesh with no electrical in there. And let me get you a little close up so you can see it. It's kind of tough to see, but there's a metal braid inside this wire that is energized. Pretty simple, and you basically just step on these pegs right here. I bent this peg right here, but we can easily kind of easily stretch it out. If you've got really hard soils, you want to put this in the ground when the ground is moist, okay? You don't want to come out here and try to stab it into a brick if your ground is really, really hard. So it rained about 2 days ago. We still got nice moist soil, and we're going to put this in. Sometimes installing this net can be a bit of a challenge because it gets tangled up a little bit. So if you pick it up and you store it correctly, you won't have to worry about it. It comes with strings to tie up these rolls so that it doesn't get all tangled up. So save those strings if you buy some of this, and you'll use it again. This is around, the rolls come in about 120 to 150 foot rolls. We're going to start right here where we're going to stick our energizer and where all of our feed and stuff is, so we can walk in and out of the coop in case we need to at any time. So it's easier with 2 people, and I prefer to put this mesh, the thinner mesh, to the coop, inside of the coop, to the inside to where the chickens are going to be, okay? The reason being is that if you're having baby chicks out here on pasture, that's what this is for, to keep them from getting shocked. And this is to shock predators when they come in. So this will solve our fox problem. All right, awesome. Right here is the net going all the way around, encompassing this entire area, and the birds should be ready to set free. I can set them free now without putting any kind of electricity to this fence. So I'm gonna let them loose, and I'm gonna run and get the charger, and I'll show you how it's hooked up. This is the watering setup. Whenever you fill up the water, it's easy pour, easy fill water. You always want the spout facing down the hill so all the water doesn't run out. So we'll set this in here. It's pretty flat right here, so we really don't have to worry about it. We'll set that in here. We'll get our 5-gallon bucket and pour some water in there. Numerous questions. How do you get over this fence, Josh? The easiest way I've found is push one pole one way and just lift your foot right over, just like so. Very, very simple. We're gonna take a bucket and we'll prop up our coop. Hey, birdie. It ain't rocket science, it's chicken science. Watch how they go nuts for this food. Get it, girls. All right, number 1 lesson when pasturing poultry: if you're gonna be moving your birds, make sure your birds are hungry. They'll follow you because you are the source of food. So you gotta think about that. Make sure your birds are hungry. Make sure they're protected. I'm gonna go get the electric fence charger, and we're gonna get her all set up so that the birds will be safe tonight. And this will be where they stay for the next 10 days. And then we'll rotate them again. And we'll move them over here. And we'll move them over there. And that's how we do it, man. That's how we keep the yard fertilized and keep our birds happy. This is the IntelliShock 60. Pretty cool. So it's a built-in, fully adjustable solar panel. This again is from the same brand, Premier One, Premier Fencing Products. I'll post a link down in the video description. I'm a true believer in this thing. You can angle this. You want it pointed due south, depending on where you are in the hemisphere or in the world. You want this solar panel facing due south. It's simple. All you do is take the ground, which is black, and hook it to the ground, and the red, which is the hot, and hook it to the fence. Pretty cool. Now, it's self-grounding. This whole setup is self-grounding. So there's a little channel underneath here, and this is your grounding rod. It slides right in there, and then that spike sticks in the ground. Now, we've used this for years, okay? No battery replacement, no issues whatsoever. And what we've got to do, if I can get this guy out with one hand, we'll set this back down on the ground, out of the way. Make sure you have safety glasses when you do this, but you see how rusty this is? So when we move it, if it gets a little corroded or rusty, just take a wire wheel, clean it up, dress it up, and that way it sticks in the ground and it gets good ground contact. It's very important to have good ground with any electric fence, okay? Now, let's talk about how electric fences work, because a lot of people don't understand it. So this is the solar panel. The solar panel absorbs solar energy and takes it in through a circuit board here and charges some batteries that are inside this unit. Now, the on-off switch for this unit, and you'll see it flashing. Hopefully I don't have it touching me. There, whoop, hear it pop. Woo! It got me. So you see it flashes, it gives a little pop, a little zap. It doesn't give constant electricity. In other words, it gives a pulse of electricity. And what you want to do, the reason we cut the grass right here, is so that that pulse of electricity wouldn't go straight into the grass. If we got tall grass, we need to make sure that we trim the grass so that the electricity doesn't get wasted and kill the battery and render this ineffective at nighttime, especially when we want to keep the predators out. So I'm going to clean this guy up just a little bit, and then we'll stick it in the ground, and I'll show you how we hook it to the fence, and we'll talk to you just a little bit more, give you a little touch more knowledge on pastured poultry and this poultry netting. Cool? This won't last forever in the soil where it sits. It's a modular system. It's a mobile system. So you got to keep a check on your ground. You got to make sure this is good. If you're going to have it permanently set, so if you buy an IntelliShock 60 and you're permanently setting it somewhere, like over in our garden, then we'll drive a real ground rod so we've got a good source of ground. The most important part of any electric fence setup is the ground and the connection to the fence. Take our IntelliShock 60. This is the ground rod or ground stake. We stick it in the ground just a little bit right here, and we can step on that if we want to, which is probably what we'll do. Just give her a little mash. There we go. Just like so. If you have trouble mashing it into the ground, try and wet that spot just a little bit. And here we go. This is due south. South is the way that we're facing our solar panel. Very, very, very important, okay? Snapped into place. Our little ground clip just clips right onto our ground rod, or our grounding setup that holds it in place, and then our hot or our red clip goes right here onto a little clip on the fence wire. Now I'm going to adjust this just a little bit so I get just what I want out of my solar panel. This is the best, most optimum way to keep the solar panel charged. Then we'll turn on the fence, and that should be it. If there's a chicken on the fence, they'll let you know really quickly. I'm going to tell you right now, but that's okay. That's what it's designed for. It's to keep the birds in and to keep the predators out. Now you'll notice on our Premier fencing, and these birds are happy, man. They've never been out to a place where they could fly and run around, so it's super fun to put them out here. But you'll notice a lot of people buy this type of netting, poultry netting, and they will try and make a square. In nature, how many places do you see squares? I mean, tell me, how many places do you see squares in nature? Not a lot of places, okay? So having a round setup doesn't put as much stress on the poles. You can buy extra poles if you're really obsessive and you want it to be perfectly square. But I find that having a nice round setup works the best for me. So guys, thanks a lot. Please post comments. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to answer any questions. Post them down there in the comments section. Pound the like button, jump in here, subscribe to Stoney Ridge Farm, and I hope to see you again. All right? Woo!
Well, come on down to the Stoney Ridge. Bring your wife and bring your kids. We're living life pure and sweet. That's the way it's supposed to be, Stoney Ridge. Woo!
birdie. Let's talk about the chickens. So we have, this is your first time to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel, please consider subscribe. Hey birdie birdie. So we ordered 25, what do they call it? All right guys. All right guys, I think the first thing we should talk about are the chickens. So these are our I got you now. Got me a chicken. It's okay, dude. It's okay. All right, guys. So before we get started here, I want to thank you a whole lot for coming to the channel. If this is your first time to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel, you're freaking out, dude. It's cool, man. It's cool. Let me start over.